Hey everybody, welcome to Home Recording Made Easy and Mix Tip Tuesday, where every Tuesday I show you a new mixing tip to help you make more professional sounding mixes in your home studio. Before we get to this week's tip, if you're new here, please consider subscribing. Make sure you hit that notification bell and also stick around till the end of the video, because at the end of the video I have something I want to give you absolutely free that's really going to help you with your mixing training, so be sure to stick around. Okay everybody, welcome. So in this week's Mix Tip Tuesday video, we are going to talk about using shortcuts, keyboard shortcuts and shortcuts inside of Studio One in this particular case, although you could do this in any DAW, to help speed up your workflow and speed up your mixing. So it really will help as you get to learn different shortcuts. And so I'm going to show you the ones, some of the my more favorite ones that I use all the time in Studio One. And this may be part one of this. And as we get further down the road with Mix Tip Tuesday, I may also do a part two and a part three. There's lots of shortcuts, but I'm going to show you the ones that I use all the time here. So here we are in Studio One. And again, I would urge you to learn the different shortcut keys on your keyboard for any DAW that you use. Now, one thing that you can do also, before I forget to mention it, is that they make keyboards. There's keyboard companies like Editor's Keys and like Logitech that make different kinds of keyboards that have the shortcuts already on the keys themselves, and they make them DAW specific. They make them both for audio programs for all the different DAWs, as well as video editing programs as well. And I used to use one of those for Studio One for a long time, and I would highly recommend that, because you can look right down at the keyboard and you can see a lot of the different shortcuts that you may not even realize that are even available to you. So that's pretty cool. So here we are in Studio One. So the first few that I want to show you are really simple. So on your keyboard, if you want to open up your browser or open up your mixing console, there's a couple of ways to do it. You can come down here to the bottom right hand corner and click these buttons here if you want, and that's one way to do it. But if you want to keep your hand off the mouse and just use a keyboard, you can open up the mixer by hitting the F3, the function 3 button. Will open and close your console, which is really convenient. F7 will open up the browser and close the browser for all your plugins and all your loops. F4 will open up the inspector. Now the inspector is this little eye up here on in the top left hand corner. You can see me clicking it up here. Instead of using the mouse again, you can go ahead and hit F4 and that'll open and close that as well. So those three I use all the time. I use F3, F7, and F4, something that you may want to write down, you may want to consider. The next thing that I use all the time are the zoom in and the zoom out keys on the edit screen here. So there's a few ways, again, you can do this. You could take your pointer up here to your timeline, you can left click and you can drag to zoom in and to zoom out, and depending on where you put your cursor on the timeline, that's where it will zoom in and zoom out from. And I do use this from time to time, but one of the things that I like to do with using shortcuts is I like to use the W and the E for Edward key on my keyboard. So E is going to zoom in. I'm clicking E, okay, and W is going to zoom out. It's another thing that I use all the time. Okay, so that's something that you may want to consider. W and E, use those shortcuts all the time. The next shortcut that I want to show you is something that I do, again, an awful lot. We're going to do this here on this lead vocal track here. I'm going to blow up this track here. And a lot of times you'll see in a lot of my mixing videos and training videos, here I'm using the W key to zoom back in or zoom out again, is where maybe we're going through and doing some manually de-essing, we're doing some editing, and we're using our blade tool, which again, another shortcut that I'll show you here in a second is the tools, but we're going to use our blade tool here. Whoops, excuse me. We're going to use our blade tool here, and let's say we're going to edit a section of this vocal track. So maybe I'm coming over here and I'm cutting, making a cut here, and then maybe I'm making a cut here. And then maybe I'm making another cut here. And now I have 3 separate blocks of audio here, actually 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 if I look at the rest of the song here. And so once you make all these little cuts, it can be very easy to nudge things out of place as you're moving around and doing fade-ins and fade-outs. You can inadvertently, like I just did there, you can move something out of place and throw things out of time. So whenever I'm done doing a bunch of editing and doing a bunch of cutting, what I like to do is I like to zoom all the way out using the W on my keyboard. I like to left click and highlight all the different events now in this region, and I'm going to use Command B, and that is going to bounce it to one block of audio. So now you can see all those little cuts are gone and it's back to one block of audio. I use that all the time so you don't nudge things out of place. Now, speaking of our toolbars, we said in a second, the blade tool, the other thing you want to remember is all these little tools up here. We have our cursor tool up here, right? We have our range tool, we have our blade tool, we have our eraser tool, we have our pencil tool. All of these can be done right from the keyboard. And again, I use these all the time. I never come up here and click. I use the 1 is the selector tool, the 2 is the range tool, right? Okay. 3 is our blade tool. The number 4 is our eraser tool. 5 is the pencil. 6, 7, and you can see we're going right down the line here, right up to number 8 here, which is the listen tool. We have the bend tool. We have the mute tool. All those tools are numbered 1 through 8 right on your keyboard. And you can even, and it's the keys above the letters too, by the way. It's not the little numeric keypad. It's the keys here above your letters on your keyboard. Okay, so those shortcuts I use all the time. I never come up here and click. Another way, again, to speed up your workflow. The next thing I want to do, I want to show you is something called the macro toolbar, which again, we'll do a whole dedicated video on the macro toolbar, which is this little icon here. You can see it next to, it looks like a little, I don't know what that is. I call it like a little Martian, where you can see it opens up a bunch of macros here. Now, these macros are all programmable. In other words, you can create your own macros, delete your own macros. It's really, really great. So you can see that I've made some categories for save as, new folder, exporting, all the more common things I do. Instead of coming up to the menus, I can just click on the macro toolbar. And as I said a second ago, I will do a whole dedicated video on how to install the macro toolbar and how to go ahead and customize your macro toolbar. So you may want to consider using the macro toolbar as a way to save yourself time. Now, I also want to show you a couple more things that are really not shortcuts, but are kind of settings. I guess these are considered shortcuts in a way, but I want to make sure I show you these two things because these two things are super important. And these are global settings that you're going to set up once, and it'll save you a whole lot of headache with Studio One. The first thing I want to show you is something in the preferences window here. I want to show you the autosave. And if we come over to Studio One preferences on a PC, you'll go to the options menu and go to preferences. We are going to come over to, let's see, I believe it's, let me just make sure where I see where it is. Is it locations? Okay, right here, locations, user data, autosave documents. This is unchecked as default when you install Studio One. You need to turn this on, and you can change this to whatever time increment you want. 5 minutes, 3 minutes, 2 minutes would automatically will save the session that you're working on so you don't lose a bunch of work if your DAW tends to crash, okay? The other setting is right underneath this, which comes unchecked. You have to check it off when you install Studio One, and you only have to do this once. Ask to copy external files when saving a song. What this does, and once you check off those two boxes, again, under user data locations, you hit apply and okay. What this does is if you import audio into Studio One, let's say you're bringing in a bunch of audio files so you can do some mixing. Maybe you purchase one of my Mixing Made Easy courses and you want to import those audio files. When you first download the files, say onto your desktop, those audio files, and you import them into Studio One via the browser, which again, you could come over to F7 here to open up your browser, and you're going to come over to Files, and you're going to go ahead and you're going to drag in some audio into your timeline here. It'll create all the tracks. When you save that session for the first time, if you don't have that setting checked off, it's just going to save as normal. Now, if you take those audio files that were on your desktop and you delete them because you think, oh, they're in Studio One now, I don't need them any longer. Next time you go to open Studio One, it's looking for that folder on your desktop. And if you took it and deleted it, none of your audio will be there. So by checking off that little box, asked to copy the files. When you go to save the session for the first time, it's going to say, do you want to make a copy of all the audio that you imported to the directory for Studio One? You want to say yes, and then you can delete those originals on your desktop, and you'll always have your audio files. And where those are located, by the way, just so you know, if I come over to a Studio One session here, those will be located right here in the media folder. Okay, see all the media? This is all the audio, the audio files for this particular song file. If I did not have that little box checked off in the preferences window, this media folder would be empty. And then when that media folder is empty, you won't be able to open up the session and retrieve all your audio files. So why is that a shortcut? It's a shortcut because if you ever import audio, don't have that box checked off, right? Save and then open up your file again. You'll spend hours trying to recreate and bring all your stuff back in. It's a nightmare. And if you had a ton of editing that was done to those audio files, you're going to have to start your project pretty much all over again. So there is a shortcut for you. So those two things there, the autosave and the copy to files when saving song, super, super important. So there are a ton more shortcuts, a ton. You could come over here into Studio One Preferences. And again, if you're on a PC, go to Options menu, then Preferences. And you could come over to General and go to Keyboard Shortcuts. And you will see there are a ton of shortcuts here. You can search for different shortcuts if you wanted to say, for example, saving. Okay, saving. Command S if you're on a Mac, Windows key S for saving, save as. You can search for anything, okay? And then you can also program them to certain hotkeys on your keyboard. And again, we'll get into that in a little future video, and maybe part 2. And the last thing I want to show you is, let's say you're coming over from another DAW. Right now, you'll see down here in the bottom right-hand corner, keyboard mapping scheme is Studio One shortcuts. But let's say you're coming over from Cubase. You can choose Cubase, and then you click yes, right? And then all of your normal Cubase shortcuts on your keyboard will apply to Studio One. How cool is that? Same thing if you came from Logic or Pro Tools or Cakewalk. This is very cool if you're coming from another DAW and you already got all your shortcuts kind of memorized. You don't have to relearn them all. You'll already have them mapped properly to the DAW of choice. So that is a pretty cool thing. So you hit apply, you hit OK, and then we're back. So I hope you found this little video helpful for shortcuts. Again, this is a time saver. It is a mixing tip, and I believe it belongs in the mixing tip playlist. I want to thank you for watching until the end of the video. Now, I said I want to give you a couple of free gifts just for watching this video and staying till the end. The first thing I want to do is I want to tell you that if this is your first video you're watching and you've never been to homerecordingmadeeasy.com, go to homerecordingmadeeasy.com, get your 5 free mixing training courses. It's worth about $210. It's my gift to you just for visiting Home Recording Made Easy. Again, links will be all in the description box below. Also, I want to give you a 25% discount coupon code. Coupon code is YouTube25. YouTube25, you use it at checkout at Home Recording Made Easy. It will take 25% off any of the training courses on my website. Even the PreSonus Studio One Beginner's Guide. If you're new to Studio One, you may want to check that out as well. Links will be in the description box. And lastly, if you want to learn the craft of mixing, speaking of Mix Tip Tuesday, in a very non-technical way, and really understand the different concepts and techniques and the workflow and the detail around mixing, check out what I have going on at mixingmadeeasy.net. Links will be in the description box. And lastly, what are your favorite keyboard shortcuts? Whether you're using Studio One in another DAW, I'd love to know. Maybe you could teach me something. Comment below in the comment section. Let me know what your favorite shortcuts are. And until the next video, I've been Dave with HomeRecordingMadeEasy.com. I will see you very soon. Take care.